Everybody, this is Perch, and this is kind of a puzzling topic because I don't. First of all, I don't think this is strictly a comic book topic. I think this is pretty much true for everything, and you do see this topic or this statement come up for a lot of businesses, especially now. There's a very high level of focus uh, on this idea of you can't put people before profits, and the nature of it is to say that that there are evil corporations out there. It's kind of the crux of a lot of this capitalism must die kind of stuff that we hear, and this is talking points and messaging that is heavily carried by a number of creators within the comic industry. And they'll say things like companies can't put profits before people. And the problem with that statement for me is it's a false equivalency. It's one that it's a little bit like saying you can't put air before water, um, because if you increase the amount of air, that doesn't mean you're decreasing the amount of water, and vice versa. To say companies have to focus over people before profits, it's a weird statement because a company that has no profits, that is unprofitable, ultimately are going to lay off those people. Money does not grow on magical money trees. You need to actually make money in order to pay people to give them a good life. And so when you put these two in competition with each other, you say, you can't have this before this. You're making a critical mistake because competently run companies, and this is kind of the key here, competently run, they are able to do both at once. They are able to take care of their people and generate profits. And they don't necessarily link the two together. They see each as a priority and each as something they need to push. If you say, we need to take care of our people, what does that mean? Hopefully it means, making them feel like they have a stable job. Hopefully it means paying them on time and promptly. It means giving them some career growth and salary increases, and if they perform well, merit increases or bonuses or what have you. These are all ways you take care of people well. Those are all financial reasons. There's other things. I mean, psychologically making sure that the workplace is not a flaming hellhole, that they don't fear their coworkers stabbing them in the back. There's not rampant crime or other problems going on in the workplace. I mean, there's a lot of things that go into making a healthy work environment. One of the kind of goofier aspects is we've seen tech companies in particular are very, very guilty of this. But I was really alarmed to see some comic writers talking about this for a couple of reasons. I mean, first of all, in comics, most creators, most people who are kind of generating the work, the writers, the artists, etc., they work from home. They work from their studios, or maybe they have a home and then they have a co-working location that they go into with some other artists to do their work. Or there's a couple different ways to do it. But one thing that they don't do typically is all live in New York and then like commute into the office and check in at their desk and answer some emails and then start drawing comics. That's not how the industry works. I don't think anybody thinks that, although every now and then I wonder. Definitely, there is an office for editorial and for distribution and marketing and people like that. Although right now in times of COVID, a lot of people are working from home there as well. And I think a lot of that's going to continue. The idea of bringing everybody into an office is really going to be around planning and around some socialization and kind of big group meetings. But you're going to see, individual work is going to become more binary in the sense of you get your work done, you don't get your work done, and that's kind of how you're gauged. Coming in and doing kind of a performance of working is probably on the decline. But regardless of all that, um, a lot of tech companies went down this path of saying, well, to have an enjoyable workplace, to put people first, we need to start doing things like having nap rooms and slides, and what Google had a ball pit room at one point, and we need to kind of goofy things to make work feel like play. And we're seeing kind of I think the end of that cliff for a while. Somebody finally figured out it's like, hey, what people really like to do is they like to leave the office. Like instead of making it dawned on them that companies that were like investing in building movie theaters and bowling alleys and other things in the workplace were doing it to keep the workers trapped inside of the company. And most workers like to, leave and go home and then enjoy whatever they're going to enjoy on their own. They didn't want to kind of replace their outside life with just more work life. But and it was a con. It was there's people who've left Google now. It's like, yeah, that's exactly what we were doing. We were making it so that people just didn't want to leave. Because there's this kind of a, if you're watching a movie at your job, when you get out of that movie, rather than like go and kind of relax and maybe have a drink or hang out with friends, you feel like compelled because you're still at the office to go check your email and continue to engage in work. So it was a good way for us to, sneak in a 60-hour work week on people without them really noticing it at the cost of like a movie theater. It's totally worth it. Anyway, uh, be that as it may. Uh, this kind of scream in comics that we have to, profits are not important. We have to focus on the people. It mirrors like a lot of the goofiness just in other businesses. Yes, you should focus on the people. You should try and make your people as productive as possible. Sometimes that's not what people mean when they say you should focus on the people. If you say, yeah, let's make you productive, they're like, yeah, wait a minute, what? Um, it can turn on people in a hurry. But you want to make sure that they are secure, that they understand what they need to do, that you're basically, as a manager, as an editor, as a product manager, program manager, whatever it happens to be, your goal often is to try and remove any obstacles that come up that prevent people from being able to be exceptional, that prevent people from being able to be good at their jobs. There's lots of obstacles that will come up, and your goal is to try and remove them. And good companies understand that, and that's the focus they put toward people. They try and make it so that when they are working, they are doing so clear-headed and happy, and they're being innovative. That's what you're trying to do. But at the same time, yes, you do have to focus on profit. And I think this is one of those parts where comics in particular falls victim of it because of this idea of people are underpaid. In a lot of cases, there's just very little money. Comics does this weird guilt trip on people sometimes where it's like, hey, look, you can see your name in print. Aren't you grateful that your name is in print and you're on this book? I've watched a number of people over the years, and it's been pretty consistent from the 90s to today, where they'll tell creators things like, oh man, it's so lucky you broke into into the right place, right time, giving you this opportunity. They'll use words like, we gave you this opportunity, or you got an amazing opportunity. And it's kind of this strange double-edged sword coded almost message, which is, hey, you didn't deserve this opportunity. You should feel really lucky we gave it to you. And therefore, you should accept this $100 a page rate because that's better than most. And all the things missing from that are, one, or if you're actually good at let's assume for a moment you're good at your job, right? You deserve the job you got. And I know there's people who've gotten in there through nepotism and other things who really don't and don't put out good quality material. But that's kind of why are you trying to retain those people? Sorry, it's a very blunt way to put it. You should, if you should be trying to make people who turn in good work on time, quality, brings in eyeballs, brings in sales, creatively helps expand your universe and creates new characters and all that. People who are doing that for you as a company, you do want them happy. You want them happy because you want them doing more of that. You want them creating more characters. You want them spinning off more IP. You want them continuing to meet their deadlines, and you just want to keep it going. You don't want anything to block that. So that will help lead to profits. If you help make your people happy, yes, it will lead to profits. However, selling comics and making money off of doing that, putting out books that will actually sell and putting out books that will compete in the marketplace and help you, is really, really critical. And if you ignore that, if you instead say, look, the important thing is to, be socially responsible, or to have a happy workforce, and whether a book sells or not doesn't matter. Companies that say that won't stay in business because they are businesses, all of them, big and small. And maybe you get into a situation where somebody's willing to just bankroll that out of their own pocket for a period of time if it's a very small company. Maybe you're part of a giant corporation and you're kind of hidden from costs, and that's great, but eventually the money does run out. Maybe not immediately, but it does. If you can't figure out a way to make a profit, you won't continue to be in existence. And then whether your people are happy or unhappy really becomes irrelevant. They're all going to be unhappy because there's no job for them there. So, and the next time you're in, talking with somebody, arguing with somebody, and this topic comes up, this idea of, well, we can't put profits over people. Kind of push back a little bit, going, they're not in competition with each other. They're really not. If you give the example, and people have in the past, like, well, what about those companies where the CEOs give themselves massive pay increases? They're paid like $8 million a year, and then in that same year they lay off a bunch of people. That has nothing to do with profits. That's a greedy dumbass who's in charge of the company, basically is in a position of power where they can get away with giving themselves a massive raise at the expense of other people. That has nothing to do with profit. Profit is about putting out a product or service or whatever it happens to be at a certain cost and then being able to sell it and receive money at a much higher rate. And you're generating money. That's a profit. CEOs who do crazy financial shenanigans to benefit themselves, that has nothing to do with profit. That's called a badly run company. And people, that this is where push back a little bit when somebody's like, you can't put profit over people. I mean, what about those companies with the CEOs that do this kind of thing? Just you can answer. That's a dumbass company. That's a dumbass leader. That's somebody who is tanking their company. That's somebody who got into a position of power and is abusing it. But that has nothing to do with being profitable. Companies should try and be profitable. And companies that are very, very profitable often do treat their employees well, provided they don't have some maniac who's at the top of it who is, screwing everybody over. And yes, those situations occur, and those situations do tend to, come to an end at some point. Eventually, the board, the investors, whoever it happens to be, do tend to get tired of seeing a CEO with a massive salary. And so you see these news stories about the CEOs are paid $12-15 million and the working conditions are abusive. If you look into it, they don't. This isn't a situation that goes on for decades. It tends to resolve itself. The fact that you're reading that story means people are pissed off and are starting to push back. But anyway, comics do need to be profitable. Yes, it's absurd to say they don't. It's absurd to say that we need to focus on the people and forget about the profit. It's just that's a ludicrous statement that will end in disaster. I understand it's popular. It makes for a good slogan on Twitter, but it isn't the real world. And whoever you are, whatever your ideology, whether you're anti-capitalism, whatever it happens to be, you should want your company to be profitable because that's how they're going to pay you and expand and give you new projects and do more things. So you should definitely have a vested, motivated interest for profit. And you need to start separating out, companies with absurd hiring practices or doing weird things, which, by the way, includes, nepotism-based hiring where people are hired without merit. That's a problem too. That does tend to get in the way of both profit and people. Because it turns out when one person hires a bunch of their friends into the company, the other employees tend to not like that. They tend to see that as pretty dodgy. That's a people problem. So you shouldn't do it. Anyway, there you go. People versus profit. Stupid. What do you think? Leave your comments below. Like and subscribe. Thanks for listening.